Familiarity is a big reason why Auburn nailed several of these major hires this offseason.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We'll talk about Auburn basketball as they play later today. Darrell, obviously a must-win for Stephen Pearl and the guys. But like you look at this staff, and it's just filled with so much experience. And I think there's a lot of things that you can really take away from that, and we'll discuss some of those things throughout today's show. But familiarity has been a theme throughout this entire offseason when talking about Alex Golesh. And a lot of it has to do with the players and the offensive staff. But there's three guys we're going to talk about, and one of them is cloaked with familiarity. It's his right-hand man, Kodi Burns, has become, Alex Golesh is his true number two is kind of what it seems like. And obviously him returning to Auburn is a storyline as well. But we've talked about this with Byron Brown. We've talked about this with all the USF guys transferring. But, I mean, for Kodi Burns, like, this has to be as comfortable as a transition as it possibly could be for a guy that graduated from Auburn not that long ago.
It's amazing how if you stay around long enough, narratives start to come back around. I remember in Kodi Burns' first tenure with Auburn, there was a loud vocal contingent of Auburn fans that really felt like he didn't have enough experience. There was skepticism. Right. And then when he left, it was one of those deals with like, you don't know what you got till it's gone kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I've always known he's been a pretty good dynamic recruiter. He relates really, really well with players. And people, I think, questioned early on his first tenure with Auburn, the technique. What was he teaching as a guy that only played receiver? Well, here's what I say about Kodi Burns. A lot of times character and what you project and what you say matters to be backed up by your actions. And any student athlete that he's trying to recruit or coach can look no further than the unselfishness that he put aside as a highly touted quarterback to say, oh, I'll move to a receiver because this helps this team. How does that equate to coaching? To me, it equates to coaching that he will do whatever it takes to win and what's the betterment of the team. And when you're setting that example to 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, I think it goes a long way with the parents. It goes a long way with credibility on the sidelines and in the practice fields.
Yeah, 100%. And he knows what it's like to win at Auburn. Different era. College football is different, but he knows what the ceiling looks like. And, I mean, Golesh has referenced some of the conversations between him and Kodi Burns, even, back when they were in South Florida, as far as how special of a place this is. And I think Alex Golesh has totally bought in to this. But I think the ease and transition of Kodi Burns, I mean, it's a perfect situation for him. And he's still surrounded by same boss, same coordinator, same receiver room, essentially, in a place that he already knows and loves. But think about how much this means to Alex Golesh as well. His right-hand guy, a guy who clearly needs, he brought in folks that he can trust and rely on. Kodi Burns is going to be at the top of that list just because of their relationship and how they've worked together. You got to think that it eases some of this as well too. I mean, I think it was us. We reacted when Golesh talked to the media down in Mobile, and he was asked about Cole Best and Byron Brown. He talked about how he slept better at night because those guys were here, and the install in spring is not going to be as bad. I mean, you talk about Kodi Burns coming over and being over a position group that's essentially all South Florida guys, and then some young moldable wide receivers that we're all super, super excited about that chose to stay. It's got to make things easier for Alex Golesh.
Well, and any of the guys that came from South Florida that had any questions or wondering what it's like for the transition to Auburn, what the transition to the SEC, what is Auburn as a community, as a school, what's it like playing at Jordan-Hare? Who better to answer those questions is somebody that won a national championship at Auburn and loves Auburn and still has that. I don't care when you go away and coach somewhere else. When you graduate from Auburn and you played football at Auburn and you won it's always in your blood, no matter where you go and what you do. So him coming back home, per se.
Especially a guy like Cody. Especially a guy like him.
There's other people that I don't think embraced it as much. He has worn it, and he wears it on his sleeve. And so who better than to help acclimate some of these student athletes to the Auburn way? Well, I say the Auburn way, getting back to the Auburn way, a new Auburn way, creating a culture and a climate.
Yeah.
What it used to be. And he knows, and then you get the bonus of, like you said, how close and how well Alex Golesh knows him, that there's a familiarity there. So I think you get the best of both worlds. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't wait to see how he teaches and coaches and treats. And we'll get a glimpse of this soon when spring opens and we get hopefully some, as many windows as we've gotten in the past. We'll see. I'm kind of doubting it, which is fine. But I do want to watch him interact and work with, the guys who came with him, but also like, how different are the conversations between the South Florida guys that he's already coached and then the new guys, even though they're returning to Auburn, but it's like the new guys from a, coaching point of view and system point of view, which is a pretty unique scenario.
I agree. The guys that are there already are still going to have to learn a new way to do it. I don't care if they're there, the Smiths and the Turners. It's different.
Bryce Kane. Right.
Bryce Kane. They're going to have to learn to do it the way Kodi Burns and Golesh wants it, even though they've been at Auburn for a couple of years. So I think that transition will be very, very interesting to watch. And who emerges out of Kodi Burns' group as that leader, as that guy that kind of takes some people under his wing and says, hey, this is how we do it. You always want players to be an extension of their position coach on the field. It's hard to do that from a head coaching standpoint because there's so many levels. But as a position coach, he can only teach and instill so much. Somebody's got to step up and say, hey, come here, young buck. This is the way we're taught to do it. This is what the coach is trying to tell you. I believe, Auburn had that in Keandre when he was here. And I think that made I think he was a really prototypical, taking some of the young receivers under his wing.
Yeah. I mean, KLS for what we needed at the time was perfect. We couldn't use that momentum positively. And that I don't think that was really as much on the players as it was on the coaching staff, but regardless, we all know the story there. Other hires that may be flying under the radar, one of which we talked earlier, Tim Banks, and then obviously Larry Scott. Talked about both of these guys at different points this week already. Let's jump into that next, right here on Locked on Auburn.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Texas won its first ever SEC championship on Sunday, beating South Carolina 78-61 and snapping the Gamecocks' 3-year run as SEC tournament champions. In the Big Ten championship, UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45. The 51-point margin is the most lopsided title game in Big Ten tournament history. With a resume that includes 18 Quad 1 wins and one of the toughest schedules in the country, UCLA is making a serious push for the overall #1 seed. But UConn has held that spot all season and remains the nation's only unbeaten team. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Of course, you can hopefully we'll be traveling to watch the Auburn Tigers, but we'll see. Regardless of whether it's basketball or college baseball, I used Game Time to get tickets last week for an Auburn baseball game. Game Time, Darrell, is the ticket marketplace that we recommend getting all of your tickets through.
Got some soccer tickets I'm going to try to get and try to score in July, and that's where I'll be going.
Yeah. You have to pay for those? Crazy. Take the guest forgot of buying tickets with Game Time. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That is promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. If you've been thinking about joining the Everydayer Club, now's the perfect time to do it. You can get this show on audio, ad-free. You also get access to our group chat on Discord. And if you want me to do a bonus show on a specific topic, the folks in there are doing that. You can have access to that. Also, if you sign up before the NCAA tournament tips off, you can get into our Everydayer Club bracket pool on Discord for a chance to win Locked On merch. Should be a lot of fun. Right now, you can use code MARCH to get your first month free. Head to lockedonauburn.supercast.com. The link's in the episode description down below. Darrell, I really like the addition of Larry Scott, and probably because he's coaching tight ends, it slipped under the radar a little bit, but I think there's a few things at play here. One, anytime you get a former head coach, I don't care what level of college football, anytime you get a former head coach to join your staff, that's huge from a recruiting standpoint, from a game plan standpoint, from an expectations and culture standpoint. And also just, this is Golesh's first time in the SEC. It's good to have some guys with experience just to talk to and ask questions and learn from, because I don't think Alex Golesh is above that. And then also positionally, I think it's a big deal because tight ends are asked to do so much in this Alex Golesh system. So I think Larry Scott coming over as the former head coach of Howard, I think this is a big deal.
I do too. The head coach thing, you cannot put a price tag on. Love the fact that he was a head coach. And then think about other places he's coached. Tennessee, Miami. And oh, by the way, he was head coach at Miami too for 6 games and had a winning record. 4-2 as an interim head coach when they fired Al Golden. So there you go. He won some games at Miami, albeit
and he's been through all of it. Yeah.
Been through all of it. So I like his versatility. He's coached at some big programs. And as you said, that's a position group that needs an injection, an infusion of some really high-level coaching. And what better to do that from a guy that's ran his own program for 4 or 5 years?
100%. So excited about the addition of Larry Scott as tight ends coach. Tim Banks might be the most important hire outside of coordinators this offseason, and that's another one that's flown under the radar. One, the talent he has access to as safeties and co-defensive coordinator is huge, but I also think that kind of shows the magnitude of what they think about him, giving him that co-defensive coordinator tag. Also coached at Tennessee, Penn State. He's coached some big-time college football teams. And I think them tagging him with the co-defensive coordinator thing, I think that says everything about what Alex Golesh and leadership thinks about Tim Banks and bringing him onto the staff.
Just as much as I love, somebody that's been a former head coach as a position coach, it also helps when you're a former coordinator. He was a co-defensive coordinator at Penn State. He was the defensive coordinator at Tennessee under Heupel, had a tremendous defense in 2024. It took a step back in 25 because some guys left from graduation, and that's why he got let go. But, still, that experience of being the coordinator and running a defense at places like Penn State and Tennessee is another thing. And then, as you mentioned, he slides right into one of the most talented position groups and position rooms on the team. I think he'll make an incredible impact. It's hard to judge. We used to be able to look and say, okay, lead recruiters, what kind of recruiter is he? And you still will. You'll still see that. But high school recruiting has taken such less of an emphasis now to the portal. It's going to be hard to gauge what kind of impact I think he has right away from a recruiting standpoint, however.
Yeah. And also, though, like relationships still matter in high school recruiting, but to act like NIL isn't a major factor in every recruitment. I mean, you can have the greatest relationship in the world, and it might save you some money in certain battles, or like if it's close, if both schools are offering, $200,000 or whatever, and like, okay, they'll pick you over them. But I mean, a lot of the times, like, how strong does that relationship have to be? Where it's like, all right, I'll play at Auburn for 200, or I'll pick them to play under somebody versus going somewhere else for 300 or 350. Like, people aren't going to do that. There's some, but not many are going to do that. So
it helps from an evaluation
aspect of this. Like, I think the effort is important for sure. But I think effort looks a little bit different now too, especially for like folks at the top. Like, do you spend extra time with a booster now instead of, calling a kid? Like, do you call a booster a little bit more just for, to get the funding? I think that's kind of just a totally different dynamic now.
But when I mention evaluations, it does help to look at a high school player, and if you're recruiting and say, this is a kid we want to offer. I mean, there are some no-brainers.
Right.
But that 3-star kid that maybe not many people are in on, and you're in on him early, that's where a guy like Banks, I think, can really help.
Yeah. Won't push back on that at all. And look, I think keeping those guys from entering the portal was a big deal as well. And you have to think that they sat down and had some conversations with Coach Banks, keeping Fagans and keeping Winters and Caleb Harris and Sylvester Smith. We've talked about how Champ Anthony, we've talked about how loaded that room is. And that's a position group that they really kept together despite us trying to do the mental gymnastics of making sure all of these guys can play. They sold them something, Darrell, and I think you got to give Tim Banks credit for that.
Absolutely. Retention now is almost just as important as recruitment. Going out and getting players is important, but if you retain your studs and it makes it less holes that you have to fill and go out and get, it's same model in NFL free agency. Sometimes the best free agent you can get in the market is the one you keep from being a free agent on your own team. And I think that's the same analogy that can be made with the transfer portal.
Yeah. Or you just overpay for Romeo Dobbs. Sorry.
Or you get a
My Patriots fan just came out for a second. We're recording about 30 minutes after that news happened. I'm not quite.
I love getting a shutdown corner from Auburn to wear black and gold too. I ain't gonna lie to you about that.
Well, yeah, New England got a shutdown corner from Auburn. They went to the Super Bowl last year. So there you go. Yeah. Shout out Carlton Davis. All right. So yeah, those are 3 hires that we really wanted to kind of spend a few minutes on today. Kodi Burns, Larry Scott, Tim Banks. Auburn basketball has to win. They got to win. Come on, guys. That's next right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. You're no longer just a spectator. Play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Indeed. Darrell, you guys use Indeed to hire. You sent me a picture of the dashboard as proof last week. It sounds like it gives you so much control and so many options when it comes to acquiring the right fit for your posted jobs at your small business.
Already made a hire this week, and we'll make another one in 2 days. Got a plethora of candidates. We narrowed it down. So boom. I sent that to you 5 days ago, and in 5 days we filled two spots.
Incredible. Listeners of this show can get a $75 sponsored job credit to help their job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That is Indeed.com/podcast. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Final few minutes on today's edition of Locked on Auburn. If you wanted reaction to Auburn baseball's game last night, Lindsay and I went live right after. So that reaction is up, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on audio. It's in this feed/channel. So be sure to check that out if you want more Auburn content and you missed that. So Auburn basketball, they start their SEC tournament action this afternoon, scheduled for 2:00 Central Time. I'll believe it if it actually happens and starts on time. Regardless, they will play Mississippi State at some time this afternoon. Opened at a 7.5-point favorite, according to our friends at FanDuel, which felt like a lot, Darrell. That felt like more than I thought. I would have guessed that they would have Auburn favored by a few points, but I would have said 3.5, 4.5, not 7.5. But when you do think about the matchup last time, how close it was, despite the flukiness of what Hubbard was able to do. I mean, he became Steph Curry for the first 20 minutes of that game. And then that being in Starkville, this is going to be in a neutral site. Like, I guess it makes sense. Like, Auburn wins that game, I think, 7 times out of 10 if they play. But man, I just have a hard time. I have a hard time picking Auburn by 7.5 against anybody at this point.
I thought about it. Remember, Auburn came back and took a 7-8 point lead in that game, and then kind of also blew it down the stretch because they think they ran out of gas.
They were up like 7-ish, I think, with like 4 minutes to go, something like that.
I'm waiting for the Auburn team and Auburn players to start believing in themselves like Joe Lunardi and some of like FanDuel believe in Auburn. All year, I'm shaking my head going, what are they seeing that we're not? And then they seem to have more belief in what Auburn can do than the players that take the floor in these big must-win games and the way they come out. It's amazing.
Yeah, right.
Like you said, some of these places that give odds, the national, Joe Lunardi still having them in. The argument is made that, look, if Lunardi still has them in, they can't hurt themselves. The only thing they can do is help themselves by winning against Mississippi State, because then if you lose to Tennessee, that's a quad 1 loss, yada, yada, and they're in the tournament. I don't know. Joe Lunardi is not on the selection committee. I know that he is the go-to bracketologist, but he's been wrong a lot on bubble teams and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
My belief is Hubbard's not going to have near the kind of game he had. Can't physically possibly, the odds tell you he's not going to. And he single-handedly beat Auburn. So if he just cools down somewhat like he did in that second half, if you go back and look what Auburn did, they were, a plus 12 in the second half, still ended up losing, but they were significantly better.
Yeah.
On a neutral floor, I can see where the 7 points comes from. Which Auburn team's going to show up? The Kentucky, second half LSU, Arkansas, Auburn, or the Ole Miss, first time Mississippi State, Alabama, Auburn. Which one's going to show up? If Auburn shows up and plays with any sense of urgency and cares a little bit about defensive shutdowns and closing out and all that kind of stuff, they do win this game, I think, between 5 and 10. But that's a big if. That's a big if. And I hate to be skeptical, but I would have thought they would have done those same things against Oklahoma and Ole Miss, and they didn't.
Yeah. Mississippi State the first time. Yeah, 100%. Do you think they do anything drastic from a rotation standpoint?
I have, I guess, lobbied for or went on the record with you saying that I would bring Keyshawn Hall off the bench from a just a whole chemistry continuity standpoint, and put Sway back in the starting lineup and see how that works. And if he pouts and sulks on the bench, you don't bring him in the game. If it makes him mad and it fires him up and he says, I'll show you, I'll prove to you, and he comes off the bench possessed, that could really, really help Auburn. I don't know if that'll happen, but you try something. I mean, you've lost 5 out of your last 7, and you were a 7 seed, and now you're the last projected as the last team in the tournament. And it's sad that you would take that right now, every day and on Sunday, just getting in as the last team. That's how far it's fallen since the end of January. So, try something.
100%. So you and I will be live right after that game this afternoon. So looking forward to doing that with you. And hopefully we're excited and we're talking about Auburn getting a chance at Tennessee. And if not, I assume that's it. I don't see them making the tournament if they lose today, and I don't see them accepting an NIT bid. So that'd be it. And we'll reflect and we'll ask the question, where do we go from here? So regardless, it'll be an interesting conversation, I think, either way.
And I'll miss doing, I hope they do, because the last couple of years, we've got this little tradition where we've done the NCAA Auburn selection show where we've come on live.
I mean, we can still do it and just be sad when Auburn's name's not read.
I don't think I want your viewers or your listening seeing sad Darrell.
Yeah. Well,
so.
All right. Please like the video. Please subscribe, Darrell. How can people check out everything you've got going on?
Wednesdays and Fridays with you right here on Locked on Auburn, live like we talked about, as long as this basketball season continues, and then Sunday nights at 8 o'clock on the Barn.
Well, if you're listening on audio, please subscribe, leave us a review. It helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.